evening, Tomasio here. Mary is the new evangelization.com. That's the message. And that's a very important message. And the reason that message is so important is because without Mary, it's just half. It's half. Jesus and Mary. It's got to be Jesus and Mary. Jesus and Mary. Jesus and Mary. That's the fulfillment. That's the plan. That is Revelation 12. That is the will of God. So if you are far from Jesus and Mary, then you're not alone. That's the problem. We're so far from Jesus and Mary. Now, Mother Angelica died on Easter Sunday. Mother Angelica was a nun, and she started a Catholic television station called EWTN. And she was very aggressive, and she was out to, make a difference in the world. So what she did was she just got people to support her, and she ended up starting a Catholic television station that has been very successful and continues today. So she dies. She used to have a show. She was the host of the show, and she would sit, she'd have guests come in, like Oprah or something like that. But it was Mother Angelica. She was the host of the show, and she would interview this priest or this bishop or this person or that person, ask them what they're doing, give them their opinion, and she'd get people to call in with all their problems. She'd tell them what to do. And she featured Catholic stars, pretty much, like musicians and Scott Hahn, theologians. She would feature people. Father Karabi was on there all the time. She made stars out of ordinary Catholics. She made superstars out of these people. And the shows are very, on this rock, Marcus Grodi, Jeff Cavins, Journey Home is Marcus Grodi. And anyway, these guys preach a message. Raymond Arroyo is on there. And their message is basically the Catholic Church is amazing and great and super and fantastic. Okay? So it's a very pro-Catholic. It's not what you would say pro-Jesus and Mary, more as much as it is pro-Catholic. Okay, so they have guys on like Scott Hahn, Rome Sweet Home, Journey Home Network. In other words, they promote and encourage people to become Catholics, even if you're a Christian, if you're a Protestant. If you want to come home, you come home to Rome. And Rome is home, according to Scott Hahn. And Mother Angelica, she promoted this type of proselytizing, I guess you could say. So, when you look at the situation, okay, who was watching EWTN? Who was watching Scott Hahn? Who was watching Marcus Grodi? Who was watching? It would be either Catholics or Christians, pretty much. I would say the majority were Catholics, but I have Christian friends who would watch. They would have kid shows on, things like that. Okay, so were they appealing to, Sally prostitute or Jimmy drug addict or Sally atheist? Were they appealing to the unbelievers on the majority of their program? I don't think they were, personally. I really don't think they were. It was, and it still continues to this day, the similar themes. Now, as a Catholic, okay, if you're not addressing the pedophilia in the church, now I know Mother Angelica would go against the bishops who would go against her, right? or they might say the wrong thing about the Eucharist, or they might say the wrong thing about hell or something like that. Mother Angelica was big on hell. Okay, lots of people were going to hell, according to Mother Angelica. Okay, and she would get into it. Just watch some of her programs. She would get into it. She'd call people ridiculous. I just saw today. They're doing highlights, and she said, "Oh, this guy called in, and they wanted to come on the show." And I said, "I don't even think you're Catholic." And he was like, "Why would you say that? Why would you say that I'm not Catholic?" Because I run the show. Like a joke, okay? Now who knows? Maybe that guy was a saint. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to come on and talk about the victims of the sexual abuse. I don't know. But I do know that she was her own magisterium, basically. And so if she thought Father Karapi was right, she had Father Karapi. She made Father Karapi a superstar. And you know what happened to Father Karapi, okay? She put Father Burchell prominent, okay? Father Burchell, he got in big trouble as far as, being lenient on the pedophiles. Scott Hahn, he clearly promotes people coming to the Catholic Church. That's like the ultimate goal of your life, is to becoming a Catholic, okay? Now, the problem with that is that we have a lot of Catholics and there's nothing getting done. America is falling apart. It's completely falling apart. So you can get everybody to become Catholic, but if those Catholics don't know how to evangelize in the culture, they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to, stand up for truth in the culture, make sense for America, you're isolated. It becomes like a cult, basically. So God bless Mother Angelica, okay? God bless her. Now, I'm sure she was a very prayerful woman. There's no question about it. And she was a believer. There's no question about it. But she left everything in the hands of these people who, what are they? What are they doing? I don't know. That's a lot of money, a lot of donations they're getting, a lot of time, energy, and basically what it comes down to is these people, they basically avoid controversial issues. Yes, pro Jesus and pray the rosary and the Eucharist, and this is great and super and lovely. Okay, now the problem is, that's not what Jesus' life was like. I mean, he did give homilies and sermons, yes, which were very, very important. But he was, actively being pursued by the devil, nonstop, coming across demons, evil spirits all the time. And there's just so much more that they could be offering that they're not offering, but they have the platform to offer it. And it's the problem. It's the problem with the church. They're part of a system. They're part of a system. And it would be nice if people would say, Jesus and Mary, you're in control. I'm not in control. You're in control. What are you doing? What are you saying? But that's not how it works. It's more or less, I'm in control. And, if I got it right, great. If I got it wrong, too bad. That's the way it is. So Mother Angelica dies. God bless her. She had strokes. She lost her voice. Like, her show ended because she lost her voice. She couldn't talk anymore. That's the truth. It ended. How many years ago? How many years ago did it end? I know after 9/11 she had a really bad stroke. I realized that. But I believe it was like even before that she lost her voice. She couldn't even come on television. So when you have this woman evangelist who's preaching away, telling people they're going to hell, cardinal's wrong, the bishops are wrong. You had someone, and then they lose their voice, okay? And like in midstream, they lose their voice. Okay, so what can you say about that? Look at Thomas Merton, right? He's at some kind of ecumenical religious convention, and he gets electrocuted in a bathtub. It just seems to me that with all the promises attached to the rosary, to the scapular, that, Christians should end up either raptured or martyred, not necessarily like tragic stuff going on here. And clearly what happened to Mother Angelica is tragic. And even, some of the guys on our show that were later convicted, of either pedophilia or contributing to pedophilia or, stuff like that, covering up, plenty of guys on there. So what has EWTN done for the victims of sexual abuse? That's a very, very big question. And I'd like an answer, okay? And, that would be like going back to Germany, Nazi Germany, and there was a Catholic television show, and they never talked about, what Hitler was doing or something like that, So, these are just questions. I'm just trying to say, did I used to watch it? Sometimes I would watch it. And the Mass is always beautiful. The Mass is always beautiful. But I'm talking about more or less the commentaries, the people they have talking on the show is very selective and very narrow. And I personally, I think it's, you have Jeanette, like Bankovich, and women of grace. I've talked to this woman of grace about people who she's all against yoga. I said, well, these yoga people they're pro-choice and they're promoting Mary, and she wanted nothing to do with it. The Franciscans, they're all Franciscans. I've told them about the cross. There's a phallic symbol of the cross. Nothing's going on here. Okay, so the point is this. Okay, and I just ask you to be with me, to bear with me and follow me, because this is part of a bigger problem that we're facing in the church today, is that Catholics have settled for fame and fortune and not for the will of God. They'd rather spend their time in classrooms protected than, on the front lines, really dealing with, the real issues. And that's the spiritual warfare. So you preach all about, you're the best Christians in the world, yet, very little fruit as far as conversions are happening. You're just talking to the same people. And I'm sure, you've got Catholics who had become lax, and then they watched your show and then they got on fire. But what did they do? Did they get out into the abortion clinics? What are they doing? So anyway, I'm going on, I realize that, but I'd like to just say, Mother Angelica, she suffered for 15 years. She was bedridden for a number of years. She lost her voice. She had said, keep all the tubes in me. I want to live as long as I can. I want to suffer on this earth as long as I can so that I can be ready for heaven. Okay, so good for her. She probably was amazing as far as I can tell in dealing with her suffering. And that's to be commended. I just wish EWTN would become a little bit more relevant to, say, non-Catholics or Catholics who have been hurt and disillusioned, who know better, who realize that there is a lot of corruption Don't present this church on a hill thing. That it's not helping, the people that Jesus really wants to reach.